after this, I'm not talking to you guys until next week. So
Suddenly realized my husband was laughing at you and you shouldn't be able to do that.
I want to bow, but you wouldn't see me, so.
Sleep is for weaklings.
Hey, and welcome to our bonus episode and our third author interview. We're thrilled to be doing these, and we've been doing these for like 2 weeks now, and they're so exciting. It's so fun because we get to talk to people, you know, kind of one-on-one. And today we have Stacey. Hi, Stacey.
Hi.
Yes, I'm very excited, and we kind of started recording already and then had to restart because I made an oops. So this is a little more awkward than before, but we're going with it. But yeah, I'm joined with two other queens today, Alison and Clari.
Hello.
Hi!
And yeah, we're just excited to be here and talk, and so we're gonna just dive right into it for the second time. My bad. Anyway, yeah, if you have listened to any of our other episodes, you know Stacey a little bit, but we're just gonna start off with a general, hi, this is who I am, this is what I write, and then we'll ask you some questions. So take it away, Stacey.
So now it's my turn. Got it. Hi, I'm Stacey, and I'm awkward. I was mentioning already in our first try that on my Facebook page in my bio, I write books, but I talk about them awkwardly. It's better just to click the link and read about them here. And because I don't know what to say.
Yeah, that's so good though. I definitely need to steal that because I also never know. Like someone says, "Oh, tell us about your books," and I'm just like, I don't know. Yeah. I write this thing about these things with these people in.
There's people and they do things.
Yeah. There's a bit of magic.
Yeah. Most of my books have fantasy, so. When I started out writing, I wrote middle grade and young adult entirely. And now I'm inching into new adult territory, so that's a little bit of a change for me. I write lots of different genres, but mostly fantasy, mostly magic. I like some kind of magic. So I just finished up a 5-book series with Faye, and that was really fun.
Yay! That must feel great, though. 5 books? That's a long series.
Yeah, it's been,
Yeah, so tell us the name of it, too.
Okay.
Sorry.
So it is the Wicked Fae series. Book number 1 is Trial of Thorns. And yeah, I always knew that it was going to be 5 books. And I don't even know how I knew because I don't really plan that far ahead. But 5 felt right. So I just kind of wung it and figured it out from there. But
interesting. Was it hard to write 5 books for it? Because I feel like sometimes I'm just like, I don't know, hard to do 3 books for a trilogy.
Yes and no. I probably could have finished it at the end of 3, but there's a lot of things that I wouldn't have really gotten to because it was like a vast world. And then you just kind of like hook into another conflict or like that doesn't really, we think that's going to resolve it. But then it doesn't. So, that's kind of how I did it, I think. Okay,
and I did have a question. For your first book, Trial of Thorns, you had like a cool way that you named it, right? You had like an idea. How did you come up with that title?
It wasn't the title.
Oh, okay.
I didn't have a cool way of the title.
What was the thing? What was the thing?
I mean,
This is how I came up with the concept, like
the concept. Okay.
How I kind of brainstormed it. I think a lot of us had a similar thing where we all decided to write Fae at the same time, or a lot of us. And so we had this like moment of, okay, if I was going to write Fae, what would I write? Or if I was going to do this, what would I do? And I remember, I think I was one of the first ones decided to write Fae, because I had the whole story idea when y'all were like, we're writing Fae. And I was like, me too.
Yeah.
And so I had like someone posted on Facebook that was like, hey, I'm looking for a writing partner to write something to market with me. And I ended up I don't have a co-writer, so that didn't end up working out. But it did like spur in my brain, like, okay, what would I do if I was going to write to market? And I decided on Fae, because that was the thing. And I kind of wanted it to be a bully romance, which it didn't really turn out to be. But there's like kind of a scene or two that almost are, but not really. But it is enemies to lovers, and it's definitely slow burn. But so as I was like brainstorming the story idea, I remember the thing that like hooked in my brain was the scene from the Hunger Games.
Okay.
And it was near the end when Cato, and I imagine the movie, not the book, and I don't remember how it is different, but
Okay.
that actor is really good, so I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
When he has that moment of, like, I can still do this, like, no, I can still do this, like that passionate moment of, I was always going to die, I just didn't know it. And so that scene, I used, like, the inspiration of that scene as my midpoint. And it's dual point of view. The male character has that moment where they're in this knew they were going to be in a competition because they kind of had to be for that to work. And he's going to have this moment where he's like the one everyone thinks is going to win, but he has a moment where he's betrayed, and we all know that, or that he knows that he can't do this anymore. And it's like, and then they work together after that, the two characters that hated each other before. So that was the general inspiration for Trial of Thorns.
That's
so
cool.
excited. That's really, yeah, because I love the Hunger Games, and I love Trial of Thorns because it kind of has some elements of the Hunger Games, but it has this really cool fae world, so you get to be like have all these amazing world building things, and like I don't know, are they actually dragons? They have some flying things, don't they?
Yeah, wyverns, but yeah,
wyverns,
however you say it.
yeah, which I was very excited about. So yeah, and I love that you took that moment, because I was just wondering then, like, what moment were you thinking of in the Hunger Games? Because like the one that always comes up to me is like that twist at the end, you know, where she's got like it's Katniss and Peter left at the end, and I was like, oh, did she come up with that? And then I was trying to think of Trial of Thorns. I was like, but I don't remember a moment exactly like that.
Does it fit now that you know what scene that you read it?
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. Without giving too much away about, I don't want to give too many spoilers.
Okay, but I do want you to talk about what the first book is about, because you said enemies to lovers. Obviously, that's already like sold a bunch of our listeners. But just give like a really short overview of what the series is about.
Okay, I'll try.
I know it's the hardest question I ask. Okay.
Okay, so the story revolves around Kaylin, and she is a banished fae in the human world, and she did some bad things in her previous time in the fae world. She killed a fae prince, and so she's banished, and she gets the chance to earn a pardon by competing in the Trial of Thorns, and it's a violent competition that is made to pick a very ruthless person that can go into fae hell to try to save the fae world and yada yada, because there's a plague and there's a bad guy and stuff like that. And so she gets the chance. She has to win to earn her pardon. And the other fae in the competition are doing it for the glory. They're doing it for the chance to become the next the fae ruler, and that is Revelin is the main male character, and so I said it's dual point of view. And it jumps from Rev, who his goal, one, is that Kaylin killed his brother. And he's not happy about this. So he wants to kill her, but he also wants to win. And Kaylin wants to win to earn a pardon. So that's the story, is that they hate each other, but they both want to win, but only one can win.
I know. It's great. It's really good. Yes. And the books are great.
It's a great story. And there's some great details in it, and there's some great twists in it. And then you read the prequel, and it's like, even
you guys
more
can't
so.
see Claire, but she's making a very shocked face. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, that doesn't work very well on the podcast, does it?
She's like, we can see her, but you guys can't. So let me just narrate what she's doing. But yeah, it's a really great series, and book 5 is out now, so you guys can binge the whole thing, which is great for anybody, really. You don't have to wait to find out what happens. But yeah, we have some other questions, so we're just going to go back and forth. Alison and Clari are going to ask you some questions. Alison's going to start us off, and yeah, go for it.
Awesome. So, we queens have been chatting a lot recently about the weird and wacky things that we love to put in our books, which stem from this really great discussion we had on the subconscious pleasures that we get from reading. So what I'd like to know, Stacey, is what are the top 5 things on your id list, so the list of things you love, that you incorporated into this book or series?
Ooh.
One thing you haven't incorporated yet that we're going to talk about later.
Oh, you should have given me a heads up on this one. I need my list.
I was told you weren't allowed a heads up.
So I do like enemies to lovers and that whole, like, I hate you, but then I'm attracted to you, and then like the hesitant allies, that whole thing too. So that's definitely in there. I really, really like wounded heroes and like the dark, mysterious, almost villainous characters. And this one I did, my female character is kind of the broody, villainous character, the morally gray character.
Yeah, I was going to say morally grey is the right word, and I love that as well.
Yeah, she thinks she's a villain, but we learn over time that that's not really true. So, I don't know what else.
I mean, there are so
I'm sure there's
many
plenty, but
great
yeah,
things in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
There are lots of good things. There are quite a few things which are on my list.
Fated Mates are in there, which. Yeah.
The contest, which is always a good one.
Yeah, the contest, the competitions.
Okay, so I'm just going to interrupt here and ask the question I was going to ask earlier. So one of your biggest things that you love that is not in this series are, what is it, like male characters with horns and wings, right? Like that's like your attraction point. And you don't have this in this series, but are you writing one that has it?
Maybe. I am working on 2 different books that have demon love interests, and that is one of my things, is like the beastly, dangerous characters. And I don't know specifically how. Sorry, I almost said something that I shouldn't say, 'cause it was going to come out really bad. Would have horns.
I'm so intrigued to know what you're thinking right now.
This is a PG podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they are going to look human and look attractive, but then have one of them they have a glamour. So then when they're in their other form, they would be more beastly and have horns and possibly wings. I think I'll make one of them have wings and then one not. But I don't know. I like the leathery bat wing kind of thing. Those are fun. Definitely have claws though and fangs.
You're hilarious. Is this your next big project, or you're working on something else besides this?
No, there's 2 of them, and they're very similar. Actually, the plotting is all different, but they're both human girl goes to a magical school and demon love interest. So
Perfect.
One's high school, one's college.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, that's exciting for you, especially.
right.
All right, Clari, do you have a question for Alison? I mean, for Stacey. Who are we talking to here?
Okay, Alison. No, Stacey. You should have answered one of my questions. My other question is not book related at all. But I know that you like to travel. And in a non-COVID related world, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go?
I think Australia is number 1. Maybe number 2 is Israel, but that's also a little scary. But Australia is definitely like one on the top on my to travel places, which is like a big trip because the flight alone will cost thousands of dollars. So.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Is there anything particular you want to do there?
Yeah, I think like the outback, kangaroos. There's lots of creatures, even though some of them are scary.
Most of them are scary.
Most of them are scary. Even kangaroos are probably scary.
It's true.
But there's lots of things to do in Australia. I don't know. That's always just been one of the things that I wanted to do.
That's really cool.
Do you find your travels inspire your writing?
They have. I haven't written anything Europe-based, but I did my Sea of Treason series was inspired when I was on a cruise to the Caribbean. I think we were in the Bahamas, I believe, and there's some like piratey things there. And I've always been obsessed with pirates. Like pirates have always been a thing that I was really into. So of course, I'm fascinated by all the pirate things, and I just started thinking about the pirate story, and that ended up turning into that.
So I think you need to come up with a story that's set in Australia, because then you can write off all your expenses as a traveling expense, right? Marketing.
Research.
Book research.
It's true.
Okay, should I go next? Okay.
Yes.
So I love to know what writing setup other authors have. So can you tell us a bit about where you write and any special tools or drinks or music you need to get you in the zone?
Sure. I have a desk that is quite nice, and I don't ever use it.
And sure, was it like Stephen King who got some like really fancy desk? Like he'd wanted this like really old desk for like years and years, and he finally got it, and he didn't write it at all. He just went to like this little kind of cubby hole and just like typed away there because it gave him like writer's block writing at this like amazing desk.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah, I actually sit at the table a lot. I don't know why, because it's literally right next to the desk. But we have a desktop set up with like multiple screens, and like it's a whole thing that like hubby set up, and I write on my laptop. So that might be it. It's like kind of distracted by all the things when I'm really just writing on my little tiny screen. But actually my favorite place to write is to go to a coffee shop. I go to Panera a lot, mostly because it's the most convenient, but definitely coffee is like one of my number one things, but have to have coffee. I also love chai lattes.
Oh, me too.
And I have Spotify playlists for all my books, so that's what I listen to.
Do you listen to it while you write, or just like in prep? Okay.
Yes. I zone out pretty easily, so.
Do you come up with that playlist like as part of your sort of book research and kind of planning that?
It depends. I often use it as a form of procrastination.
It sounds like a very useful form of procrastination. You're allowed.
Yeah, so.
Because you don't plot your books, right? Or I mean, I guess very loosely.
I'm a plantser, yeah.
Yeah.
I have every book is a little bit different, but I have like a vague idea, and I usually have like an idea up to the midpoint, and then after that I have no idea. So I start out, I usually have like a chapter or two written before I really sit down to actually write the book. It's part of my like process for like getting into the characters' heads and world and stuff like that, and then I sit and let it stew for a while, and then I jump back into it. So during that time I'll probably have a couple songs that I like for it, like as I'm thinking about it. I'm like just on the radio, whatever, like, you know, makes me think of it or whatever. And then at some point I start writing, and then I'm like, I need a playlist, and then I stop so I can make my
That sounds fun. Okay, Clari, do you have another question for her? Did we exhaust
No,
your questions?
you exhausted my questions.
Oh.
My other question, what we've sort of covered was, what do you want to write about but haven't yet? So other than Horns and Wings, is there anything else that you want to write about in the future?
Probably.
You're asking non-planner here.
Are you going to share that with us?
You need your id list again.
I think I'm a whim reader. That's how I define the way that I read. I read whatever I feel like in the moment, and I think I'm kind of like that with writing too, where like I don't know what I'm doing until I'm doing it. And
do you find it hard then, like writing a longer series? Like, do you find you get bored if your kind of attention sort of flits from one thing to another?
I don't know if bored is the right term for it, but that it was definitely a challenge to write this series, I think, over like this time. One, the world's been crazy, and it's been difficult to like focus, and like everything's changing, and I can't have a pattern to anything because it's all different all the time. Yeah. And I have a 6-year-old son who was like sometimes at school and sometimes not at school last year, and it was tough. So but I think that on top of that, like kind of getting a little bit burnt out from like forcing myself to sit on the same story for a year and a half did weigh on me a little bit. In April, that's when I gave myself the entire month off of April, the month of April off, and to just do whatever. And that's when I came up with my demon stories, because I just wanted to like come up with something that was different, that was for me, that it wasn't like an obligation. I think that's more of it. It's like more like the obligation feels like it's just not fun when you have to do it.
Yep.
So that was
even when it's something that you want to do, and like you
Yep.
can still love the story and the characters and stuff. It's kind of just resisting that kind of, I just want to go and play with all the new shiny ideas.
Isn't that like the staple of writers though? We have like a deadline and we're like, oh, shiny new idea, let me work on this. Like, I know that all too well. I think it helps, like for me personally, I think it helps the fact that I'm a pantser when it comes to series, because then I'm discovering the story for myself for the first time as well. So like that whole concept of like being bored with the story is not as high as if I like already outlined everything and then had to write it, you know? And I know you're like that too, because you pants a lot of it. So At least that helps, right?
Yeah. I actually think that I got frustrated with myself for making my characters stay apart for so long.
Oh.
And like torturing them so much, because I did. I really put them through the ringer, and like there was a point, I think like through the third book, where I'm like, I just want them to be happy.
I mean, that's good, right?
Did they get to be happy at the end,
enough?
or is that too much of a spoiler?
Yes. No, I will tell people that I've got happy endings. Like there's gonna be, it's the middle part that you get a question, but there will be some form of happy at the end. Yeah.
That's good. I do actually have a question that does not relate to writing. I guess maybe a little bit, but you are on TikTok and you love TikTok most of the time, as everybody, as most people feel about TikTok. It's like an up and down. But can you talk about that a little bit? Like, I know you talk a lot about writing and publishing on there, and I don't know, just like talk about what you love about it and how it, like, I don't know, does it inspire you writing at all? Does it help? Like, I don't know. Sometimes I see stuff on there and I'm like, ooh, maybe I should make a note about this.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about ids. Like, I definitely got ids, as in that's the concept from writing for your id. What is the like the gut things that you love and put them into your writing? That's what I'm talking about when I say that. And I definitely found some from there, because there's a whole accounts of people who just talk about the tropes that they love and like the oddly specific book tropes. And like the specific scenes of things that happen, and like, yes, I love that too, and you put that onto your list. So that definitely adds in a little bit. I think you're also getting in touch with readers a lot, so you see what it is that they really want, and sometimes the things that they really don't want. So that can be affected too, sometimes in bad ways, but mostly in good. But yeah, TikTok is very fun. I love TikTok. I actually am currently running 2 accounts, which is overwhelming. Because my hubby and I also have a travel vlog, and we're posting roller coaster videos and stuff on the other one. So. And I've been neglecting my book talk one a little bit, but I'll have to hop back in there soon and jump back into it. But yeah, I don't know. I talk about book stuff. I talk about writing sometimes, but I don't think I know what I want to do with it continuing forward. Do I want to always talk about writing, publishing? Because I don't think I do. Maybe I actually did consider at one point just making it a Demon Stan account. Like, I just love Demon Love Interest and just talking about that. But I don't read fast enough for it, which I probably could do it if I read faster. But
no, it just seems like you have fun on there, and so it's just got one of those things. Like, I have to bring it up because you do love, like, you do have fun on there. So it's like a fun thing if you guys want to hear, see Stacey do discussions and talk and all that stuff. Like, that's a good place to go to see her and her personality shine. So yeah, that's it. That's the question I had.
Okay.
Alison, do you have any other ones?
I do have a question. So how do you celebrate a book release? And have you celebrated the release of finishing your series? Do you have like a big celebration? And I want you to say yes. And if you haven't, then you need to celebrate it, because it's an amazing thing.
I'm gonna say no. I don't know. No, nothing specific. I remember my very first book release. It was so anticlimactic, and I just sat on the couch eating Oreos. Like scrolling through Twitter and whatever. At the time, Twitter was big. Of people like talking about it and stuff. So I mean, it was fun, but also like it feels like it should be so much bigger than it is, because it's all online. And people in real life, like, there's a couple of people that care, and then the rest are like, okay, cool, congrats, okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
But no, I don't do. I should. I guess I'll have to tell Hubby's gonna be out of town next week, so I'm not even gonna have the chance. Or I should say, Hubby's gonna be out of town tomorrow, so I won't even have a chance to hang out with him. But maybe next weekend we'll go out on the town and celebrate my book launch.
You should. We are so bad at celebrating our book releases. Like, so bad.
Especially because this is the end of a series. I probably should.
Yeah, a 5-book series. A 5-book Stacey. Like, that's huge. So definitely do something. I mean, I don't know. I was going to say go jump out of a plane, but you've done that already.
I've done that.
Go on a roller coaster. Yeah. Oh, yeah, but you do that.
Yeah, well, you did kind of mention, actually, people in your real life, kind of caring, kind of not caring at the same time. What does your family think of your writing?
My husband's supportive. He's read some of my books, but he reads slowly, and so he doesn't end up getting into many of them. But it's funny because, so my very first book was a young adult contemporary book with a publisher, and the title was Naked, and the cover image is like black with a girl that's like curled up in a fetal position, and she's naked. And the story is about teenage prostitution. Like, it's a deep, heavy story about, you know, dealing with sexual abuse and whatever. And I'm pretty sure, it took me a while to realize this, but my parents are very quiet about it. Like, they don't talk about it, and they just kind of like, whatever. I'm fairly certain that they think that I wrote like a sexy book.
A sexy YA book.
Yeah, they didn't realize that it was YA. But because they're very, very, you know, fundamentalist Christian, whatever, and so the way that they've been kind of awkward about it, I look back and I'm like, I think that they think I wrote like an erotic novel, and I didn't. So like I gave them
that cover though, you know, I could see it.
And the title kind of.
Read the back of the book, friends. Like, come on.
But who reads the back of the books? I don't understand.
So, yeah, I don't know. My parents are awkward about it. And my mom tried to read it, which I'm surprised that I'm happy that she didn't finish it, because it's a very depressing book, and I think a lot of people think that it's a very hopeful book, but it's dealing with depressing issues, I should say. But she was like, I couldn't keep reading it because it just like was really getting in my head, and she is a very, very, very emotional and sensitive person, and she would think that it was about her, and it's not. So yeah, I'm glad that she didn't actually read it. But
that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's like also what we want from our readers, is to like really get into our books, but that one, not in that case.
Yeah, I don't care if my family reads my books. So.
And now you can tell them that you're writing books about men with horns.
Right, they're gonna like.
That's really
gonna change their mind. Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, no. If I mention that I'm writing demon love interest, they're gonna be very, very pleased.
But it's really cool that you have a support system at home, you know, with your husband and stuff. That's really cool. Yeah. I mean, I don't have any other pressing questions. What about you guys?
I've got one, actually. You have another job as well.
Yes.
Could you talk about how you balance that and the different demands and what it is you do? Because I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, you have a really cool job.
So I work at a casino. My husband and I both, and actually his father, so my father-in-law also works at the casino.
Okay.
It's a pretty easy job that pays well, so it's something I suggest. Like, if there's a casino around and you don't have any particular vices, then it's a good place to go. It's quite fun, and you have to work overnights often, but yeah, it's a cool job. So I am a slot attendant, and what I do is I walk around and help people with the slot machines if there's anything wrong with them, and pay jackpots. So if somebody wins over a certain dollar amount, I have to process it and fill the tax paperwork for them, because they're obligated to pay taxes if they win over a certain amount. So, and then I hand pay them, and it's fun. So, but I work right now. I actually just went down to working 2 to 3 days a week, so that is helpful with like the work-life balance. When I was working 40 to 44 last year, on top of trying to write the series and dealing with a son that was at home a lot. It was really, really hard. So I'm hoping this year is starting the school year is gonna be a little bit easier for me. But yeah.
Oh, that's super exciting that you get that extra time. I think that really does make a difference. And also, like, I just don't know how you kept writing through all that and kept your like creativity up.
I didn't sleep
because that's something I struggle with.
We need sleep. It's fine.
Sleep is for weaklings.
But that is really impressive. The fact that you went through this whole year that is, you know, was so hard on everybody and so crazy for so many reasons, and like still managed to get 5 books out, you know, and I don't know. I'm incredibly impressed. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that we want to talk about? Because I think this is like a good place to stop, actually. Yeah? No? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, thanks for being here today and being our guest of honor, first of all. And ladies, thank you for the questions. If you want to follow Stacey, I will leave all the links below, and I think you should, obviously. of course. And to her series as well. You'll have a link so you can just easily find it. But yeah, don't forget to check out our normal type of episode on a Wednesday. And yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say.
Are you saying I'm not normal?
None of us are actually normal, which is why when I said normal episode, I was like, wait a minute.
Regular episode?
Regular scheduled episode on a Wednesday, please. And yeah, we're going to have a little announcement, I think, in the end of this one as well. I think there was an announcement on the last episode, but this one will have an extra special episode announcement. So make sure to tune in on Wednesday. And yeah, show Stacey some love online and make sure to pick up her books because they're amazing. And yeah, that's it. That's all I'm going to say. Bye.
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 Thanks for having me.